I started out in a normal breeding company when I started working 25 years ago, 26. And well, my passion is breeding, developing varieties, and it was very nice working there. But in the end, when you work there a longer time, you really get to notice some things. You start to see things that's happening that you think, well, is that the right way to work? Some of the things where it was very standard to use Roundup around the fields, around the selection fields. Well, I always urged, well, don't use it because it also gives damage in my crop. And I'm working there and I don't like it. But yeah, that was something that was difficult to change. But what really made a difference was one time I had a rocket breeding trial, and I was assessing this. I was testing the taste of the trial, and in the evening I had blisters on my tongue. And when I went back to work the next day, I asked, well, that's strange, I've got blisters on my tongue, and what happened there? And then it seemed that the day before they sprayed it against aphids, the whole trial, without telling me anything about it. So that really, that was really something that shook my. I thought, well, it's strange that these kind of things happen, and people, without thinking about what can happen, use it. Well, I started to look around a little bit, and I came to the DeBolster, and when I came here, also, you really notice that there is a different way of thinking about what you're doing, what you're busy with, what's important, and yeah, health, care, it really is important, and then you notice that's so important also for me, but also what you do to other people. And when I came into the this organic company, but also you meet a lot of other people, you feel that spirit everywhere. Also with the growers that we visit, and it's not about being big, making money, making a big profit, have a high yield. It's about caring for your crop, having a good crop that you can sell to people, that you know it's good, and that you don't have to. And it's of course you have to earn money, but it's not the main issue. Yeah.
Okay. You told me also breeding was your passion.
Yeah.
So how did this interest into breeding started?
Yeah, it started already young, without me knowing it. I always liked to be in the garden, growing vegetables, seeing how things grew, and I also had an interest in how things worked. I always ripped apart radios to see how it worked, and then when I went to college, I went to the horticultural school, and there you really see this connected. And you have your passion for vegetables, and you have the technical part behind it, how to improve vegetables and how to make something better, and that came together in this breeding job. And it's very wide. It's not only you're making vegetables, but you're assessing them. You're making crosses. You see what comes out of it, and you make new crosses. You have to talk with growers. You have to talk with your the sales team, what they need and what's behind it. So it's very broad, and that's also something I like. Yeah.
So let's talk about the company, the role you have in it, and the how would you define it, and what's the story of it?
Yeah, so DeBolster is an organic breeding company. We breed for varieties, we produce seeds, and we sell the seeds to organic growers, but also to other companies that sell it again to other growers. We work worldwide, sell our crop. And the company started in two ways. Here in Epe, the family Vosselman always had their farm, and they grow vegetables. And in Groningen there was a family Douwes who started in 1978 with DeBolster, with growing organic seeds. And in 2003 this was combined, because then the owner here. The company was getting a little bit older, and I was thinking, what am I going to do the rest of my life, and how can I interest my two children into this company? And then I said, well, I'm going to do my passion, do breeding, and then we sell the seeds, and then they took over DeBolster and started from there selling seeds, but also starting the whole breeding company. And then it started here in this old farmhouse you saw, just working with a couple of friends and some family. And from there, we had some first successes in pumpkin, and later on also in pepper and rootstock pepper, and from there it grew very quickly to now a company with 24 people working in the Netherlands, and a company for seed production in Moldova, where we do seed production. But that's the start of the company. So from really a small scale company for the home market to really a professional breeding company.
And what's your story inside the company?
And I started here in DeBolster 8 years ago, in 2017. Then at that moment, Bart Vosselman, who is one of the owners, was thinking about retiring, so he thought we need some extra people in breeding. So then I started here for breeding in tomato and in the peppers, pepper rootstock, and I'm doing a lot of other breeding stuff now at this moment. So now I'm the head of the breeding department. We have got 10 people working on in breeding in the company.
Okay. So can you explain me how do you develop the seed? And one of the big questions of the video is how we innovate to get plant protection without using chemical inputs. So maybe we start with generally speaking, how a new seed is developed at your company, and then in the second time we take how if you want to develop a protection of resistance or resilience inside a crop, how do you make it?
Yeah. So breeding always starts in. It's not what we think about what we want to make, it's about what the growers need to make a successful crop. So the first thing we have to do is talk with growers. What do we grow? What's your problem in there? And how can we improve this? And that's the first thing we always do before we start a project. And from these talks you get ideas about what you can solve. And for instance, that's then maybe a nematode resistance in pepper, what we worked on. That idea came from the growers who had a problem in their greenhouse. From there, you're going to look for resistant material in the end. So you're going to talk with gene banks or other groups that are doing research to this problem. Try to find the genetics to get the resistance. And of course you have to test this in the environment. Just sow it in the soil where there's nematodes, see if it still grows or dies, or and what the nematodes do. And from there you try to improve this and get it into your material to get not only the nematode resistance but also the other characteristics right. You have to do tests then at growers. Is this what you want? Is this what you needed? And if that's good, when they say, well, this is what we want, then you're going to produce seeds. And then you have to sell the seeds in the end. That's how it works. In a quick way, of course, because this takes years to
So let's take a concrete example then with I don't know, do you have an example of a resistance that you've tried to develop and that you developed actually in a cultivar or something?
Yeah.
The story of an example of a new trait that you developed.
So we've got a few examples. I don't know. Let's take one. We've got the tomatoes at this moment. Tomato for outdoor growing, or also at small greenhouses that have no heating. They have the problem with Phytophthora.
What is it?
Fungus. That's a fungus that really infects the plant. The leaves die, but also the fruit gets brown, dark, and dies off. So the whole plant dies in the end. And that spreads all around Northern Europe. It's everywhere, also in America. And at this moment, there was not really a good resistant variety in the market. So we started a breeding program for this problem. We searched some gene banks. We searched for resistances. Found some resistances there. We also developed some markers to do marker-assisted breeding. So a marker linked to the resistance in the plant, so you can check if the resistance is in the plant just with a marker. And with this we could do crossings. We made crossings back into our elite material, our varieties we already have. Mm-hmm. And then in a couple of years we had some varieties that looked okay. And then you have to check it outside, and then you have to go outside, you put the plants out and see if the plants are resistant or not. So that's always the point where you say, well, I hope it works. And then we had some good results also there that next to the plants that are dying, our plants are still growing like normal. And that's really something that's, especially also for the organic market, but also for the smaller growers, that's very important. So that's one of the resistances we brought into our material. I said about the pepper, the nematode resistance. We have now the main variety for this nematode resistance in the market in Western Europe. Because we really searched for the resistance that was good. And it also there you sometimes have 10, 20 lines that look okay, that have kind of a resistance, but then you really have to search further which one is the best. And we found a resistance that not only suppresses the nematode growth and your plant keeps growing, but also the amount of nematodes in the soil is diminishing instead of still growing and spreading. So those are small chances you make, or differences you make, but it can make a very big difference for the grower, who can then keep on growing peppers and tomatoes afterwards and cucumbers without the nematode problem. So those are things, but sometimes it's also just growing speed. If you want to be faster than weeds, you have to have something that emerges quickly from the soil. So it spreads more quickly and you don't have any problems with weed. So you don't have to spray against weed or remove it by hand, of course, in the organic system. So those are a couple of things we did to really improve the varieties we made.
So how much time does it take to develop a new resistance? I should say actually a plant with a new resistance.
It depends. It can go quickly. It depends on the crop, on how easy the genetics is behind it, if you can use markers or not. But I always say, let's take 10 years.
Okay. From
start to finish, 10 years, and then you're quick. Yeah. So you first have to think about something, but sometimes you have a problem, but you cannot find a resistance, so you cannot solve it. So sometimes there's a lot of time involved in just searching for something you don't find. So then you have to do something else or skip this whole program in the end.
And I suppose that you are a lot in touch with the research on resisting genes and
Yeah, of course we also look at what all the research programs are doing. There's a lot of literature, of course, also available. And of course you also look at the other companies, what they do, what they have. If there's something interesting in their material, we can also use. And so that's very broad. That's the whole gene bank. You can get it from everywhere.
Okay.
So you have to really check everything.
Also, yes, I wanted to ask about so you using the research, but the researcher also come to see you, right?
Yeah, it happens. Just have to think about it. But yeah, we also work together with researchers, and now there's a problem also in peppers again with some problem that plants are dying and they don't know what's happening. And yeah, we're then in a research group working together to see what's happening, what's the problem, how can we solve it. So then we work with or with Wageningen or with the ILVO in Belgium, or just who is interested there. But also in breeding we have the whole breeding group, the eco plant breeding group, where all the smaller or organic breeding companies are working together to see what they can achieve together, to pick up different breeding challenges that we can work on together, because we're not that big. So if we can exchange results or even genes, then that's also working. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know that this morning we were with Michel Haring.
Yeah.
And he told us that the resistance that is built in a plant. You told me it can take 10 years minimum to develop.
Yeah.
And you might have the problem that the pest learn way more quickly than this.
Yeah.
To avoid the new resistance. So how do you tackle these kind of issues?
Yeah, that's always a difficult part. It depends on the crop and the resistance. Of course, some resistances are still working after tens of years. But there are instances like in spinach where you have a downy mildew resistance and the resistance is broken. Almost the same year you find a new resistance. So there's the thing about speed sometimes, but it's also things like stacking different resistances. So that it's more difficult to break, and looking at more broad resistances that work with more genes, so it's more difficult for the disease to break this disease. So yeah, it happens, and yeah, you have to deal with it in that way, and you have to really check always, does it still work? That's the same with the Phytophthora resistance we have now. We know that it can be broken. And we stacked some resistances there, so we hope that it stays longer, but we're already working on a new resistance there, that if this is broken, we have the follow-up ready quickly, hopefully.
You said stacking up some resistance and also playing on the genes. Can you be more specific?
Yeah, so you have single gene resistances, that just one gene gives resistance or susceptibility. And you can stack those kind of genes, so you have more resistances, but you have also genes that work more broad and that you need more genes to get a resistance. So that it's not one gene that gives the resistance, but you need 3 or 4 resistant genes to get a high level of resistance. That's the difference. But in the end, it's how more genes you have in your resistance, the more difficult it is to break for a fungus or a disease, because then it's more complex. One gene against one gene is very easy to break. That's just it's like the odds. It's much bigger if you have one gene that it breaks than with 2 genes or 3.
And also, when do you work with the resilience concept, when you are developing new? Yeah,
so that's part of the whole thing. Here we breed under organic circumstances. We also like to have the circumstances less let's say it like this. So more stressful. We give less fertilizer, less irrigation, just to stress the plants some more. And in that way, we think you will get the better resilient plants. You get plants that are more protected against drought, or less fertilizer still keeps on growing. So that's, I always call it a robustness of a plant. So a plant is robust, it grows easily, it's always good when it's to too dry, it still grows. When it's too wet, it still grows. When it's too hot, it still grows. And when it's dry, it still grows. So that's resilient or robust. And that's something else than a variety that's really, when you have the optimal circumstances, it will give the highest yield. And that's where a lot of breeding is gone into, especially in greenhouse vegetables. You can do everything optimal, and then you get the highest result. But when it's suboptimal, the plants will be very bad in the end. So for a good and resilient system, you need plants that can have more different circumstances and still grow. Like a 7. I say you always have plants that give a 9 sometimes under perfect circumstances. But if it's bad, the circumstances, it will give a 5 or a 4. But you like to have the plants that always give a 7 under all circumstances.
Okay. I think we're good with the technical aspects. It comes the question of the economic model.
Yeah.
And then I guess we can start with the question: how do you make money out of this activity?
We make money by selling seeds. And that's why we have a big portfolio of a lot of different crops, a lot of different types, vegetables, herbs, flowers, from which we sell the seeds to the growers or to the home market. And this pays for our breeding program. Of course, breeding costs a lot of money, a lot of time, and you're never sure that you're successful in the end, because you've got a vision what you're going to make, but maybe you won't get there. So you put a lot of money into this, but you never know if you're successful. But if you're successful, you can earn it back. So that's why we have different crops, different breeding programs, and when one is successful, we can also pay for the others. So we really have to earn money by selling the seeds. And the more successful we are in breeding, the more successful we are in selling seeds, the faster you can grow.
But you have also some structural aspects, which is that a seed creates a plant, which creates seeds.
Yeah.
And so you eventually just sell the seed once. How do you tackle this issue?
Well, we produce the seeds again. So we have the breeding department who makes the varieties. When the variety is ready, we will give the seeds to the production department, and they will produce seeds, and they will keep on producing seeds as long as we can sell the seeds. And so the variety stays the same. The production department is every year producing seeds, which we sell to the grower every year. And there's the profitability. So when you make a variety, you can sell it for, if you're lucky, 20, 30 years. It can be that you make a variety that you can sell for 1 year and then the resistance is broken and then you can throw it away again. But that's where we make the money, producing seeds, selling the seeds to the grower.
But every year you are selling the seeds?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the variety you produce, they cannot produce new seeds that are fertile for the next year?
They can always produce seeds. Everything we sell is fertile. Only we sell open pollinated varieties, and they can be produced by the grower again. But we also sell hybrid seeds, because sometimes growers ask for hybrid seeds, and sometimes you need the added value because sometimes it's more resilient. But sometimes also just by combining two lines you get more resistance. So you need to make a hybrid. So we do both. The hybrid seeds, they can produce seeds on it, but it will divide in all the kind of types, so they won't do that. But the open pollinated varieties, they can sell. But we always think when they buy seeds at our place, they know that the quality is good every year. There's no disease on it, we've checked it. And they have the same variety every year. And there's the added value for the grower. Because you can produce it yourself, of course, but then you're never sure if you have the good quality or that it's gone off or some off types in there or things like that. So we earn our money by selling seeds every year to the grower. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you told me you want to talk about patents. So I guess this is the moment. And actually, I think you know better the index than I do. So what about is there a patent on your seeds? How does it work?
Well, how does it work? It works like I said before. You, as a company, you search for resistances that you can put into in your crop, in your vegetable, so that it has a better resistance. And a lot of the companies do it at this moment. They search for resistance, and when they find this resistance, the first thing they do is file for a patent, so that they know this is my resistance and I can use it. And if other people want to use it, they have to ask me, and they can pay me a royalty for it. That is what changed when we talk about patents from early, where we didn't have any patents, to now. And there's the difficulty that we say as an organic company, we don't want any patents on our crops, on our varieties. So what we make ourselves or what we sell from other companies, we don't want any patents on it.
Why so?
Because we think it's not fair. You know, you look at it this way: you find something in the wild, from a gene bank maybe, or just in the wild. There's a resistance in there, and you say, well, that's mine. I found it, it's mine. While it's just in nature, and I think nature is from everybody, and you cannot own it. So I think it's not fair, and I think it's not fair to let other people pay for it in the end. And it also hampers the innovation, because now it's from one company and we won't work on it. Or if we work on it, we have to pay our profit to another company. So a couple of companies are getting rich by this, and other companies earn less because they were not the first to find this resistance, or they found it first and cannot and then don't file for a patent when they find it, and because that's also what we do. So that's wat zeg je? Yeah, it's a good one. So in the end, costs will go up. So we have to pay for a patent for a resistance that's in our crop, and in the end, the grower has to pay a higher price. So it's not fair to everybody, I think, in the end. And we see now that some of the prices of varieties that have a new resistance that is patented have sometimes doubled. And who's going to pay that? In the end, the grower. The consumer is not going to pay it because they don't see the resistance. It's for the grower, and they will pay this price. So in that way, I think it's not fair. And in the end, it also hampers our innovation, because sometimes we also work on a resistance, but then you see that it's already patented by somebody else. We stop the whole program because we don't want any patents on it. So, and what we're working on has a patent on it, so we have to skip a whole program. So it really depends also where other companies are working on. And it's getting very complex at this moment, because now in tomato we're talking about a virus resistance, which is already needed in the world with growers. Growers need this variety or the resistance to grow tomatoes, and so there's a lot of money involved in this, because tomato is one of the biggest vegetables in the world. So a lot of seeds sold. And then you see that for this resistance in tomato, there are already 20 patents filed, more than 20. And now 2 are already also granted. And they are all different from each other a little bit. And sometimes they overlap and sometimes they're different. They not only claim the resistance, but sometimes also the way of testing it, and some even claim the virus as their property. So if you want to work with it, you have to pay. But it's so complex that it's for this one gene, for this one resistance, you have 20 patents. You have to check if you're working on it, do you fall under one of these patents or not, and where does it, where do you start? You know, it's so complex, and that really withholds people to start with such a program, because it's so complex, and in the end you have to give a lot of your profits away to another company who found it first. It's sometimes depressing to work on this.
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate, but
Yes.
I want to understand, properly. So, if because you are creating new resistances that you could ask a patent for.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe not, because in the EU, I'm not sure you can do that.
Yeah, it's changing, but it's not really allowed, but it's still happening. That's the thing.
Around.
Yeah.
I've been told
Yeah,
there is a way around that
Yes.
is used as well, and but the thing is, if you since you're refusing to get a patent, how do you protect your innovation?
Well, that's how we've always done it, is by protecting your variety you make. So we make a variety, the variety we get variety protection on. So this variety with all these characteristics is ours. So you cannot get this variety and sell it yourself, but you can get this variety and use it in your breeding material. So when we are the first on the market, we can take over a market, or we can sell the seeds. That's where we earn our money. Other people can take our seeds, put it into their breeding program, make something else of it with this resistance in it, and then they can also sell their seeds. And if everybody does this in this way, there's the innovative part, because then I brought something on the market that has an innovative trait. Everybody can use it and make even their varieties better. But everybody does this. So also other companies make a trait that's interesting for us. We put it in our material, and in that way our varieties get better. And in this way you really get innovation much more quick and much higher in that way. And you earn your money by making the right variety that you can sell. And there is then your profit. And when you're the first with something on the market, you're the first, so you can sell it more easily, because others don't have it and they have to work on it. It takes a couple of years before they have their variety, and then they can also earn something on it. But then you're also working on something else. So it's always going like this. And who has the best variety sells the seeds in the end, the most seeds, and they earn money from it. And that's different than what you see happening now, is that there are companies that are only searching for traits that they can get a patent on, but they don't have to make the variety.
What is the difference between the race and variety?
Now the trait, so they find the resistance, and they say, well, this resistance is ours. If you want to use it, you can get a license, but they don't have to make the good variety to sell to the growers. Because they can make a profit by selling the resistance to another companies who can make the varieties. And there you really miss the innovative step of making these varieties. And that's what breeding companies have to do. Make a good variety, and not finding traits you can claim a patent on and then let other people do that work. And they just earn money on these traits that other people sell seeds with the traits on there. So it's complex, but it's really I think what's then all the profit goes to these kind of companies that make these claims on the traits, and not to the companies that make the varieties, because they have to give all the profit to the patent holders. And you know, it's easy to think about when it's just one trait that you need, one resistance in a variety. Now you pay 5% of your turnover to this trait, but that's one. When it's 2 or 3 or 5 or 20, and you have to pay a license for every trait, then it's getting very complex and very expensive. And yeah, in the end, the grower, the consumer has to pay this price.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, it slows down innovation in the end.
Yeah, so you get innovation that people search for traits that they can patent, but the innovation to make the best variety and to exchange this information and these traits with each other, that is really going down.
But
you will have just a couple of companies working that have patents and that can exchange these patents with each other, so they don't have to pay that much, and they own all the genomes, they own everything, and the smaller companies will die out because they cannot pay it anymore. So there will be and you already see that, of course, that there are a couple of big companies, and the smaller companies are taken over or stopping.
But is it right to say that the trait is an abstract thing until it is incorporated into a variety?
Yeah. Maybe you can say it that way.
Yeah.
Maybe you can say it that way. That you can have the best resistance that really solves a disease, but if you cannot get it into a variety that can produce good tomatoes, it's worthless. So you have to have the good variety where everything, not only that one resistance is in there, but also the rest is good. So it has to produce good tomatoes with a good flavor and taste and everything in there, and yield. So yeah, you can have a lot of traits, but without a good variety behind it, you don't have a vegetable. So yeah, what you see happening there with the patents is that you get a market concentration with a couple of big companies who make one variety with this resistance, and everybody has to buy this. So in the end, for the growers, there will be less choice because there's just a couple of companies who make a variety and you have to use that. There is no other choice. While really working also with smaller companies who can make the right variety for that region or another country or other diseases, you will lose that part. So in the end, you will have one tomato in the greenhouse worldwide that everybody eats the same. Now maybe tomato is not a good instance, but you see it already in maize and corn, and there's a lot of corn or wheat grown around the world, which is almost the same variety, and there's not much diversity anymore. Even when you look at bananas, there's one variety grown around the world, and then you get fusarium problems, and then all the bananas die around the world because it's just that one variety that's been used. And that's what we want to protect also, that we can have more suppliers for a lot of different varieties of the crop. Now for the rest, I think, we have as an organic company, we have a special position. I think we work on programs that some of the bigger companies don't work, and there is our main existence. There we can make the difference for the growers in the end. And I'm thinking about what we need for extra. But yeah, in the end, if we are successful in this, we are a successful company, and then we don't need anything else.